Welcome to episode 4 of Diary of an Ex-Ho. I'm Cheri Hardman, your ex-ho, and today's guest is Janice L. Fox. So enjoy the episode, and remember the old saying, always a bridesmaid when you're a hoe. Anyway, how are you?
Oh, doing really fine. Enjoying our new Athena.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
She a good girl?
Oh, she's such a sweetheart. She's in with Jay right now, but she likes to follow me everywhere, and she's still trying to break loose. But this is day 2, so
Right.
She loves cuddling and sleeping on the bed and jumping on the furniture, so she's quite comfortable.
That's cool. I was kind of thinking we could talk about like what you think is the difference between sex when we were young and sex now. Like, do we think there's more judgment placed on us back then, or is there just all that kind of interesting stuff?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure this newer generation out sexually. It's like they want to be seen as so open and everything, but are they really?
I don't think so. I don't.
No.
I think you can tell that with the social media, the way they like to jump, and just sometimes even attack before they even, understand what the whole situation is.
Right.
And it's gotten to the point where, especially boomers, we're afraid to even say anything. It's like we get in trouble every time we open our mouths.
Right.
And back in our day, when grandma did that, we just laughed behind her back, or mom would say, oh, that's just grandma, and that'd be the end of it. But this generation is way different. It's like they want you 100% accountable for something you've been doing for 70 years.
Right.
So they don't understand that that's so embedded, it takes time.
Well, and the whole context of a situation. Like, this is how we do it now. You guys are just going to have to change. It's like, well, wait a minute. We have it. Like, if you look at movies that we watched back in like maybe the 70s or 80s, I mean, those are like by today's standards, very inappropriate, I don't know if you've watched anything lately and then started looking at it and realized, holy shit, we thought that was funny back then,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I still think it's funny. It's like watching Fraser, and I do just what you said, and it'll be old, but I think it's funny.
Right.
It was humor. You weren't prosecuted for having a sense of humor over things.
Right.
And now it's like this generation is doing that. You have to have 100% Puritan on any subject to the way they want you to think. And that can't be sustainable,
Right.
Especially as we know in comedy. It's not funny talking about, well, I walked my dog today. That's not funny. I don't know. Different generation.
Right. Well, so can you remember like back to your first like sexual awakening, like when you realized, oh, there's something going on that I never really knew about, or finding yourself attracted to someone? Do you remember back to those times?
Yeah, I can remember all the way back. It was a Robert Mitchum show. And it was where it was a scene where he made this girl kiss him. And that was like, whoa. I was like 12. I was like, oh, whoa. We get that little tingle going, ooh, what's that? So it just little things. And it wasn't even like today, they just throw it in your face. Where there, you knew exactly what it meant without seeing the whole thing. I don't know if it's just the way. I mean, I can remember getting in trouble. I was in the car with my grandma and my mother, and a pregnant lady walked by, and I said, oh, look, she's knocked up. Well, I was like 9 years old, didn't have filters then, don't have filters now. And grandpa says, you can't say that. And I go, but you do, you know,
Right, right.
it's funny. Now my first actual, what I call a sexual encounter was with my high school sweetheart. We were 14. And I know by today's standard, oh my God, you know where he learned that he was a good lover. I mean, attentive, knew your body, everything. 14, he was a paper boy. And on his route, a married woman took advantage of a situation where I was a happy camper, he was a happy camper, but today she'd be in prison.
Right.
It's just the way things were back
Mm-hmm. Were your parents like together, like through your life, or?
then. My mom and dad split up when I was 4 years old, between 4 and 5 then. And then my mother stayed single until she was 35. And
Oh,
she married at 16, and she was graduated from high school at 16. And
mm-hmm.
girls didn't go to college. So she got married two weeks before she turned 17 to my dad, who was 17, but he was in the Merchant Marines. He was making money,
Right.
like that, but he also liked other women. Like she got a letter from a Japanese woman, one of the ports he was in, asking her to divorce him.
Oh.
It was like she said, she made him quit the Merchant Marines,
Did you have any did you have any like role models of what like a loving couple were like?
Yeah, I was lucky in that my Uncle Kay and my Aunt Faye took, I was over there. That was our vacation, my vacation. He was very loving, fun loving, and Aunt Faye treated me like gold. And they were a very loving couple. I can remember him wanting us all to jump into the bed, and she goes, no, no. She says, I don't have my undies on, and it's like, oh, okay. I didn't know what it meant. But to me, that's telling me, now looking back, they were very loving in
Right.
that way, and like my Uncle Bill, his wife, she was a little, back then considered chubby. Nowadays she would have no, but back then,
Right.
And my brother looked at him one time and said, Uncle Bill, how can you sleep with that woman? And he just looked at her and said, you know what? When you're in love with something, not something, someone, you grow used to their body and you actually desire their body. And he told me about that because he just couldn't figure out why, he would be attracted to my aunt. Well, as we know, if it was only beautiful people that got laid, we'd be in a world, doesn't matter.
Right.
Sexuality, flirting, it's more than looks. It's almost, it's kind of an attraction, a flirtation, the twinkle in the eye, those type of things that even married, but I always tell Jason, man, I attracted to that guy, or
Right.
I told him, I'd rather you tell me you're attracted to somebody means you're not hiding it. You see,
Right.
but if
That's
you
true.
hide it, you're thinking other things. So
Yeah.
I was lucky. My mom was very open about sex. If I had questions, she answered them. So I was lucky that.
Yeah, I think that makes a big difference. I know my friends who didn't have that were pretty uptight about some things,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, one thing I know just from the conversations we've had, that neither one of us is uptight about sex. Did you ever have a period in your life that you maybe were a little more uptight than you are now?
when I was my first marriage, when I was raising my children, I
Mhm,
wouldn't allow her to spend the night at a woman's house if she had like a boyfriend. You
mhm,
know, to me that was just very inappropriate. I wouldn't watch, and I wouldn't let them watch soap operas. You
mhm,
know, and then my nieces would come over, and they'd be five of them, and it's like Annie, Jen. It's like, no, those are inappropriate. You know,
mhm,
um, and then it was like you get into your 40s and you're going, what the hell am I doing here? You know, and married 23 years, and it just wasn't working for me anymore. You
mhm,
know, and that's when my whole attitude just went 100, 365 degrees, around like
mhm.
that, because I've always been a very sexual person. Dave, I can talk about it. He passed away when he was 58, and we had a passionate, 4 years all through high school,
Mhm.
just passionate, passionate, passionate. And then I got married, and then that wasn't there. It's just a different type of man.
Right,
So when I got through that divorce, I didn't marry my husband now for 7 years. I wanted to make sure he damn wasn't going to change, you
right.
know,
Yeah.
and very good in bed. I mean, he was just like my high school sweetheart. And it's like, whoa, you know.
Yeah. Um, let me think.
I mean, I can remember back in the day. Now, they use the word hoe and they use the word slut, but it was never referred to as a male slut like we do now, you know. That could be a girl that slept with one boy or a girl that had happened to be raped, and the word got out back in my day, back in the
Mhm.
60s, you know. And that was a good thing with the 60s. We used to have a saying, you ball, I ball, everybody ball balls. That's what we used to always say. I'm sorry, it was the 60s, but it was true. It was
Mhm.
really true. The attitudes over sex really changed drastically in the 60s. So I'm
Yeah.
glad.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day because when I was young and, really young, like a teenager and stuff and messing around, like we had never heard, there was no HIV. We had never heard of herpes or, you heard about gonorrhea and syphilis, but it was, and I'm thinking, like, what would it have been like if we had had that? Like, how much different would I have been? Would I have been different? Or I also think, how much different would things be now if they didn't have to worry about? Do they even worry about that kind of stuff now? When you're a teenager, you're in your 20s, most people are pretty reckless,
Um,
you know? So I don't know if it would have been different back then if I would have been less reckless, if the stakes
I
were
think,
higher. I don't know.
well, it was when not AIDS, but when herpes broke out, people were committing suicide. We forget
Hmm.
that. And it was that bad. And 80% of the population has herpes, whether they break out with it or not. Now, that didn't just grow. It was probably that way the whole time, whether it's cold sores or, they have one and two. Well, you can get one on two and two
Right,
on one.
right.
It's all these myths. But it was a very scary time for a lot of people that were not married. You know, the biggest thing in my day was getting pregnant. We didn't have
Mm,
access to condoms or birth control, and it was they started the Planned Parenthood, and if you told them that you ran away from home and were homeless, then they would allow you to get the birth control pills.
hmm.
But if you didn't, you couldn't. So I lied.
Right.
That's what you do, but it
That's
made
funny
me
because I remember that, like having to tell them that. Yeah, it's funny.
yeah.
Go ahead.
But
Sorry.
oh no, but there were so many girls that were visiting a Dr. Cooney. He's dead, or I wouldn't mention his name. He was my general practitioner from the time I was very little, but he was the go-to doc back in the 60s. He could have been arrested. Um, a million things could have happened, but no, there were a lot of girls that if they were going to Hazen High School and visited Dr. Toomey, we knew that they were getting abortions, but it's like my mom and grandma said, they seen so many. My great grandmother was a midwife, and they seen so many women bleed to death, just so much pain. During the Depression, 12 kids couldn't feed them, couldn't clothe them. It's not like today and it has been used as a birth control, it wasn't intended that way. Really, it wasn't. Not when my grandmother and I and my mother voted for it. It was to save lives. And it still saves lives, because you have people that have kids and they don't want them. They go through hell, You don't want that. Leave it to the people that do want to have those kids. But that was a big factor in sex back in the 60s.
I remember I had a diaphragm. Did you ever have a diaphragm?
No.
Well, the thing about the diaphragm, it wasn't that bad. It was not that, you put the jelly in it and you put it in and you would wear it. But sometimes that gel would leave a lingering aftertaste, as it, so there was a little bit of a funky taste to it. And then I tried those sponges for a while. Those were great, those contraceptive sponges, until people started getting toxic shock syndrome. But it's just funny how many different things, or how few things there were, or something would come out, we'd try it for a while, and then it would change to something else.
Well, my one girlfriend, she was 2 years older than I, and she got married at 16. And 2 different times she had babies born with a coil on their head when they came out. That's how well those worked.
Yeah.
They ended up having like 8 kids. Poor thing. At least she tried. I had secondary infertility. Had I only known that,
Yeah, right.
We should have had 10 babies, but he never, we went our separate ways in senior year, and he never had any children, and I thought I couldn't get pregnant. The birth control pills threw me into a pregnancy, the hormones were right, and that's how I got pregnant with my first child. Had I just left well enough alone, I would have been the stewardess, But it's funny.
Yeah. Did you ever have, I don't know, you did a lot of your, like, when I was, because I was single for so long that I went through all these different stages, and a lot of times I was, called a slut and stuff like that. And I remember, like, when I first moved to Auburn, they called me a slut. I was a virgin. I was 14. I was a total virgin, but I had big boobs. So apparently that, that.
Yeah.
So I always would have to dance around that. And I just wonder, like, do they still slut shame young girls like that? I wonder. I bet they do.
I'm going to ask my grandson. He's 18. Find out about that. But he's still a virgin, and he hasn't even taken it yet. And my oldest grandson was a virgin, and went to the senior prom for the first time. And I always say it's because my kids were 16 years apart. None of my children had a baby till they were like 29. Not even that, because they helped take care of that.
Right.
The best birth control you can have is that teenagers get pregnant again. But I don't know. I mean, it was still, even up into the, my nieces, they were pretty much, when they wanted sex, we talked about it. They didn't care. They didn't try. They did it. Had one, she got married 16, one moved in with a guy at 13, one moved in with a guy at 12, because the home life was so bad,
Yeah.
And my sister had just lost. No, she was drinking, you know, that whole mess that can happen.
Yeah.
But they've all gone to college, gone on, you know, so they came out of it. But
Right. Well, I think I noticed mostly, like, I work at a high school. I noticed mostly it's the females talking badly about other females. It's not like boys saying stuff about girls. I don't notice that as much anymore.
yeah,
And I do
people,
think that women are really hard on other women. I'm going to keep saying that.
they're horrible, you know. It's just, and especially the born again Christians, I am sorry, they can be, once they get so into that, they get so judgmental. And I had a friend, and I'm not going to even go into it, and she started saying things, and I said, excuse me. I remember the day, you know, who the hell do you think you are saying that? I
Right.
today, baby girl. Shall I remind you, you know, but
Mm.
that's the type of person, you know, I am. It's like, no, you know, I can remember having sex with my boyfriend. It was never around anybody, but thought everybody knew it, that they could look at you and know. I mean, what's that?
I
You know,
know.
it's crazy.
I remember when I lost my virginity, looking in the mirror and to see if I looked any different.
I didn't even go to bed with my first husband on our honeymoon because
Really?
everybody there I knew they were going to
Oh,
know we were making love, and I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So when I married Jay, he says, "Oh shit," because I told him that story, you know. And when you're
uh-huh.
in your early 50s, you really don't care. Late 40s, I think we were. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's how embarrassed I was about it, you know. And I thought about it all at the wedding. We had a Catholic wedding, and it was just when they allowed non-Catholics to get married at the altar. If it would have been 6 months earlier, I would have had to stay back, and he would have been on the side. You know,
Uh,
just crazy because I was raised LDS and he was Catholic, but I'm sorry, the Catholic Church was prettier. You know, so
right.
how religious I was. So, but yeah, I think that nowadays, and it's they say a feminist, and the word feminine, you know, is supposed to portray a woman, but we're losing the ability to be feminine and be proud of it or not get chastised for it. Or there was a time when, don't you open the door for me, you know, all that really just hard on other women that just, hey, we're fine with who we are. During that 70s and 80s, there were a lot of women that were shamed that liked their lifestyle the way it was. And that shouldn't have happened. That should not have happened. That's where a lot of stay-at-home mothers got shamed for staying home. But,
Mm.
you know, like me, I was lucky enough, my first husband made enough where I could stay home. And then I'd work for Christmas money or what. But I had the whole neighborhood at my house, all those latchkey kids. And they would come on here today and tell you, yeah, you know, I had one little boy that used to come over. His mother, she was a bartender, again, judgmental back then. And she wanted me to cross the street to check on him when she wanted to stay out later. And I said, no, 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 no.
Mm.
He can come over and spend the night and you can come and get him. Well, I ended up, he would come over to my house every single morning for breakfast, which was fine. But this one time he invited a cousin and brought him over too. He said, Albert, okay, if you come over. No, I'm not. Your mother needs to get off her ass.
Yeah.
Too many wild nights, I guess. I don't know. God.
It's hard to ask this question or answer it without hurting anybody's in your life's feelings. When was like the best age for you for having sex?
I would say my early teens. And then,
Really?
yeah, and then when I married the second time, those
Is that just because of the partner that you had at the time?
he was a very good
Or
provider. He was a good man. He's the father of my children, but there wasn't any intimacy. It just was the way he was raised. And I don't know what I was thinking, because maybe I thought maybe it was going to be more intimate. And the thing is we didn't even, I got pregnant. We did not, it was like one time and I got pregnant. And then I didn't, it was like, no, you know, it, it was just this turbulent time. And then we got married, and I thought maybe it was going to change. I didn't know him well enough. Even though
Mhm.
I'd known him, he was my brother's best friend, but he was 4 years older, went to Vietnam, came home. I grew up, the whole 9 yards. But we really, we didn't know each other the way we should have to get married. So we just did this naggy, bitchy, bitchy, bitchy every
Yeah.
day. It wasn't, but he was good, never abusive or anything like that.
Mhm.
It just, you get to a point and you're going, there has to be more out there, as far as affection or, whatnot. And there was, you know.
Well, how is sex different now at your age than when you were younger?
Well, now it's more, well, you get your freaks. I mean, the passion is still there. See, I was always, well, your mother would say, you're a lady on the outside and a whore in bed. And
Hmm.
my husband now, it's like, what do you want?
Hmm.
But we, oh my God, it was so freeing. Our sex life, very freeing. And now he's got Parkinson's, so there's limitations, but the passion from before is still there. It's
Hmm.
just in different ways. The way you touch his hair, or that type of thing, because they get more childlike. So you can't go there. You just got another kid with you. So when you come from a very passionate on both ends, and I mean, it was like we both couldn't do enough for each other. That's very rare. I don't care, even out there. That's a very rare thing.
Hmm.
And I would probably never have that again with anyone. I doubt it. I think it was one in a million to find a man plays your body like a fine violin and you do his.
Right.
It just we just had so damn much fun. We were sluts to each other.
Well, that's how it should be, I think. Um, do you, let's talk about body image.
Huh?
Um, are you comfortable with your body?
I am, even though I'm heavy. And it's because I can relate all the way back. I was anorexic at 16. I weighed 105 pounds, 5'7". And I got teased the hell out. Not you'd be pretty if you didn't have knobby knees. It went on and on and on. Nothing fit me because I was like 5'7" when I was like 10. I was just this beanful of a kid. So then put weight on as I had children. And then as my arthritis hit, more weight. I would like to take weight off only because my knees are bothering me. But as far as feeling like a woman and sexy and stuff, I have no problem. And if you have a problem, look the other way. That's the way I look at it. You
Yeah,
know,
I agree.
I mean, you and I talked about that guy, older man my age, comes up to me, gives me a hug when I get off stage, and he says, "Oh, you smell delicious." And I'm over 69 and still getting
Uh-huh.
there.
Right.
I still got it. You still got it.
Yeah, we do. We got it. What is your definition of amazing sex?
Oh my God. That's when missionary style, but the reason why is because you can look into each other's eyes, into the soul, and you're still searching. And I mean, you're searching and searching and searching for that release at the same time. And when you get that in tune and it happens at the same time, that's amazing. And when you're with a man and he's looking the other way, doing one of these, they can't run, because they're inhibited. That is amazing, and I like it. I don't like vulgar men. I like innuendo. I like to flirt, but when they get graphically gross, bleh, you know what I'm saying?
So you don't like dirty talk in the bedroom?
No. I want them paying attention. I don't want them thinking. I want them doing.
Get to work, buddy. I mean, okay, this year we're like one of the few people I can talk about this with menopause and how it has affected your sexual life. I battle dryness. I mean, it's a big problem. And I'm working with different things, but just not finding the answer. So we just go through buckets of lube. Have you had any struggles with any menopause affecting your sex life?
Well, I found kind of a little secret. Of course, the estrogen cream helps, but Mucinex. You know what Mucinex does? It doesn't just loosen up the cough. It loosens up all bodily secretions. So,
why didn't you tell me this earlier, bitch?
I'm a nurse and I correlate things, and it's just like, okay, because take Mucinex. Yeah, definitely. Because it can almost get never. Well, the thing was, I never had problems with dryness ever. When I hit my late 50s, there were changes I had noticed, and then that's when you use the estrogen or whatnot. And another thing, well, I think the glands just kind of they get lazy out there or something. I don't know. It's like start pumping that out. But the Mucinex will, especially if you're taking antihistamines because you have allergies, that dries your secretions up.
I know.
Take Mucinex. It loosens up the secretions. Sorry, I shouldn't.
Well, good to know. Well, it's like we had a very sexual weekend in this house, and last night I was just like, oh, I can't even sit down because it just hurts. So I'm not that I'm really complaining. I'm just saying it'd be nice, because yeah, there's that, but it's okay.
That's okay. Have you ever made love with somebody on cocaine?
Or you try? Yeah, that's horrible. Good God.
Around their dick.
They're just so horny, but it doesn't work. Yes, I know. God, just leave me alone. That's awful.
Oh my God. What
No, I'm gonna just say it. No woman likes that. All you people that do cocaine, nobody likes it.
No. Oh my God. Just like, are you kidding me?
I know.
Oh my gosh. You just have. Oh, I like to. With Jay, there just was no limits. No limits. He liked everything. I liked everything. And my favorite thing I think was it's not bondage, but it kind of is. And it's just playing their body without touching anything and having them. I don't know if you've ever done that or not.
Having them, are they tied up? No, they're not.
Softly. softly. And you're not touching anything, you're just touching everything else. But that is the biggest thrill because it shows you. In fact, if people have trouble with sex, they should probably try that first. If somebody, just to show how to play somebody's body. You don't have to have intercourse. Well, we know men, they can look at something and go, but so can women. We lie. We lie about things. Like, I have never in my life had trouble with orgasm, ever. I just never have, and there's women that struggle with it their whole life. And
There are a
those
lot of women that have never had an orgasm.
they need to get a vibrator and practice. And once they figure out, they have to know what an orgasm is first to want more, and if you've never had one, get a vibrator, read some books, and learn what it feels like. Because I think sometimes you've got to almost, orgasms are almost painful, they say, but you've got to let it come up and then relax and just let it, roll in, like that. So I know, I have no shame when it comes to sex.
Hey, that's why we're here. How old were you when you had your first orgasm?
Oh my God. Well, the first time Dave and I ever did it, 14. But that was not what it typically is because he had sex for 2 years with an older woman. So I guess God blessed me, because I know a lot of girls, they get with kids or they just marry one guy. I mean, can you imagine marrying somebody at 15?
Getting stuck with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing too, like, ugh.
Or the ones that don't want to learn either.
Right.
They can figure, stick it in, let her go, and out you go. No. Or the
first time I had an orgasm, my parents were gone, and they had that book, Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask. And I knew where they kept it in the closet, so I pulled it out and started reading it. And one of the parts was like how to masturbate or what an orgasm feels like. So I used it as a how-to guide. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that that's a good way for, someone to learn. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it was like when Dave and I were together, that's when we didn't know anything about oral sex or things back then. And, but it started getting talked about. And him and I figured, well, we always planned on getting married. That's what you do when you have a high school sweetheart. And we were going to save that for when we got married, but it's not needed if you know what you're doing. This one guy told me, he says he likes a blowjob to warm him up, but he likes a woman's body to complete it. Now that's a good man to be with, rather than one that it's all about him, doesn't know what he's doing down there, and I mean, first time I was with Jay, all I could do, and I did dirty talk I did was, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. It was like, holy crap, Oh, so we laugh about when I say, oh man.
That's interesting. I'll remember that. Let's see. Do you have any bucket list items on your sex? Any sexual bucket list items, or are you did everything you wanted?
Well, I'm still married. My husband's still alive, but God forbid if I'm a widow, I have never been with a black man. And I think that would be something. I think that would be so sexy. I really do. So that's something I would like.
We know some very handsome black men, so.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Those eyes are just beautiful.
All right. Is this everything I wanted to ask? Do you watch porn at all?
Jay and I used to. In fact, I shocked him. One time I took him to a strip club. Well, he had never been to one, and I'd never been to one. So we went, and then we talked to a stripper afterwards because my idea is if a man has that kind of a fantasy, why not explore it? You know, I mean, it didn't go any further because we were happy with each other. You know, like Jay says, it's like looking up at the stars. You do that, then what's next? What's next? You know, but yeah, we had some that we were watching, and then a lot of it we laugh about, you know, because some of it can be really funny. And I do think that as a woman, I like more of a theme, you know, rather than just a pump, pump, pump thing or grotesquely big. I mean, a woman's vagina would have to hold a basketball to diddle some of those. I don't know. I wouldn't want to go there. I'd rather take a small dick than something that would rip you apart. I don't know.
I knew a guy back in the day who had a 10-inch dick, and he used to just carry Vaseline around with him in his coat pocket. And so you go to have sex with him, he'd just pull it out and grease it up and stick it in. Yeah. I only did it with him once.
Yeah. Yeah, that's much overrated. Sorry. That's the way I feel anyway. Just give me Mr. Average. I'm happy.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. Is there anything that you thought of that I didn't cover?
I don't think so. I mean, we didn't talk about, you know, they say every woman has, what is the word? Attraction to other women. Has that ever happened to you?
I've never had sex with another woman, and that's kind of one thing I wish I would have done before I got married, just so I could say I did it. But there are some women that I have been attracted to and thought about it, but
yeah, I think that this one friend of mine, a very, very, very old friend, and I was saying, you know, I've just always been attracted to men. It's just the way I am. Yeah, there's some beautiful women out there, and I can even understand why other women are attracted to them. They're beautiful or, you know, sexy.
right.
And I said, well, have you ever been attracted to another woman? And she just didn't say anything. And I thought, you know, I've slept with this woman, I've been dressed with this woman. It just didn't say anything. It just took me back for a second because it never entered my mind. We were just talking about our sexuality. So maybe she hasn't told me all her secrets yet. I don't know.
Well, maybe you're on her sexual bucket list.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I know we could keep going on forever because we talk about this a lot, and I know we both have a lot to say. But I want to let's just end with this. Now, can you think of like a mainstream movie, not like a porn? Oh, you kind of told me about one when you were young, but that has a really sexy scene in it that you remember.
I have to go with Ghost with Patrick Swayze. I mean, that with Demi Moore is one of the most central, and that's the way, you know, when I think when Jay and I make love, that's the sensuality I'm talking about. Having them very, they were actors, and they're very good actors, but you as a woman, and you can have that with someone else, you know. Yeah, so Ghost. And when I got with Jay, I had posters of Patrick Swayze all over my he made me take him down.
He was a sexy guy, wasn't he?
Oh man, in the Dirty Dancing.
Yeah.
Oh God, the way that man moved. Beautiful man.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Janice. It's been fun talking to you. I'll let you know when this is coming out, and I'm sure we'll be talking in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.